Welcome back to my videos, to my podcast, wherever you are consuming this content. Welcome back. Right now, we are living in crazy times with all the coronavirus going on. But today I'm going to touch on a different topic. A topic that many people have bad misconceptions about, and that is Medicare, and especially for federal employees who already have their federal employee health benefits program, their FEHB. There is many misconceptions and things that people do not know correctly about how these two plans can play together and how to optimize them for your situation and your life. So today we're going to go over how they work together and what might make sense for you as a federal employee and how it'll affect you moving into retirement. So let's get into it. So to start this video and podcast off, let's go over some of the basics of Medicare and how it works for most U.S. citizens. So for 99% of U.S. citizens, Medicare is completely optional. You do not have to use it, nothing like that. It is an option if you want it. People become eligible at age 65, and like I said, 99% of people, for them it's optional. The 1%, however, that it is mandatory for are those military retirees that were under the TRICARE medical system. They will be required to enroll for Medicare Part A and B to keep their TRICARE throughout retirement. So if that applies to you, make sure you do some research there so you know exactly what you need to do. But for everyone else, it is a completely optional benefit that you can take advantage of if it makes sense for you. So Medicare has 4 specific parts, parts A, B, C, and D. I'm going to go over some of the basics of all 4, but really for federal employees, parts A and B are really what we are talking about most of the time. Because with part C and D, for example, part C, sometimes if you use that option, it can restrict which providers you go to in retirement, and most people don't like that. So that's not a super popular option. Part D covers prescription drugs and the expenses that come along with that. And many of those things are already covered under your FEHB. So for many federal employees, Part D is unpopular as well. And so I'm going to dig into Part A and B, like I said. And if you have any questions about C and D, put them in the comments. I'll try to address them. I'm not going to address them super in depth today because for most federal employees the real decision is between parts A and B and how to use them with your FEHB. So let's start with Part A. So Medicare Part A covers many things that happen within a hospital. That's a lot of inpatient hospital care, some surgery, some hospice care, that sort of thing. There's a full list on the Medicare website of exactly what it covers. But Part A is completely free of charge. If you had paid into the Medicare system, which you have to be paying into for more than 10 years, but for federal employees, if you are under the FERS system, even the CSRS system, you will qualify for Medicare because that does pay into the Medicare system. So you don't have to worry about that if you have been a federal employee for at least 10 years. Most people in the United States do in fact pay into the Medicare system. But if you're not sure, double check. But basically, if you have in fact paid into the system, which most people have, it is completely premium free. So Part A, at least, right? So what I tell my clients is that it is basically, for most people, it makes a ton of sense just to enroll in Part A, right? It's free of charge. It's going to just be another layer of protection of insurance for you, and it does cover many of the same things that your FEHB does already, but because it is free of charge, at a minimum, enroll in Part A. So let's dig into Part B for a second. So this covers many of the expenses for providers, for doctors, and for outpatient services, and some even heavy-duty medical supplies, things like that. And Part B is not free. It is an option. If you enroll in Part A, you could also enroll in Part B, but it does cost money. So right now, in 2020, the premium, if you were to enroll in Part B, is about $145-ish per month. So that's the premium. And if you make over certain thresholds, it will be more, but for the average Joe, The average federal employee is going to be about $145 a month. And one thing I forgot to mention about Part A is that when you turn 65, which you become eligible at age 65, you have a window around your 65th birthday to enroll in Medicare. And if you are already drawing your Social Security at age 65, you will be automatically enrolled in Medicare and you won't have to do anything. If you are, let's say, currently working still or just not currently drawing from your Social Security benefits, then you will have to contact the Medicare program, say, hey, I'd like to start it at that time. And for Medicare Part A, it's pretty simple. For Medicare Part B, however, if you do not enroll in Medicare Part B right at 65, there is a 10% penalty for every year you wait after that. So for example, if you don't enroll in Medicare Part B right at 65, you wait till age 67, so 2 years after you could have enrolled, your premiums will move up 10% per year. So if you wait a year, it's an extra 10% of your premiums. If you wait another year, now it's up to 20%, right? So the original $145 premium, add 20% to that, and that's what your premium would be for waiting that time. Now, you never have to enroll in Part B. It is always optional, but if you do end up wanting to enroll after age 65, you will pay a little bit more in premium for that delay that you had when enrolling. But now we get to the fun part, where now we kind of have a basic of what these different parts are, kind of what your FEHB does, and how they can kind of work together. So now we can dig into the planning portion, like, okay, now that we have the backdrop of what things do, what makes sense for us? When it comes down to the rubber meets the road, right? What do we do and how do we plan with all these moving parts, right? So there are basically three options that we as federal employees have. They're the most common options that we can choose from. And that is, let's say the first option. The first option is to enroll in Medicare Part A. It's free, why not, right? But you keep your FEHB and you do not enroll in Medicare Part B. That's option number one, right? Where you basically, because FEHB, for the most part, is more comprehensive than Medicare Part A, your FEHB is basically, that's the coverage that you're going to have into retirement. You'll get a little extra bonus, a little extra coverage because you are now under the Medicare Part A program as well. But basically, your coverage is going to be status quo, basically what it was during your career. So that's option number one. So option number two, and that basically means for us, for the purpose of this discussion, option number two for you is to drop your federal health program, your FEHB, to drop that, enroll into Medicare Part B, and so basically you'd only be covered under the Medicare program. So there's a few inherent downsides to this option. Now, will it be cheaper because you're not paying for your federal health benefits? Yes, of course it will be. But the downside of this option is, first, a lot of providers do not like it when patients only have Medicare as their insurance, because the payouts to the doctors, to the providers, are much, much lower when it is only Medicare flipping the bill. So some providers almost refuse, or are less likely or less willing to work with people that only have Medicare. So your choice of providers might actually go down if you use this option. So that's one downside. Another downside is that once you drop your federal health benefits program, your FEHB, you cannot get it back, right? And we know that you are only paying a portion of those premiums. The government is flipping the bill on the other portion. So once you drop those benefits, then you are giving that up forever. And if down the road you realize, hey, I really wish I had more insurance, you can never go back to that program, which was heavily subsidized by the government. So that could be a big downside down the road as well. And the third downside to dropping your federal health benefits program and just using Medicare is Medicare Part B only covers up to 80% of most medical costs. And so you'd be covering the costs of that second, that last 20%. And so if sometimes people are like, well, I really don't expect to have many health problems at all, my expenses are going to be really low, I'm willing to take that risk on. And that may be 100% true. The one downside is after age 65, after we start making these sort of decisions, generally our health does not improve from there, right? It generally just goes downhill from there. And so you have to take that into consideration, that your health right now may not be your health for the rest of your life. I'm not saying you have to get tons of coverage. I'm just saying it has to be a variable in your equation when trying to make this decision. Now, for the last option when it comes to coordinating your federal health benefits plan with Medicare is to enroll in both Medicare Part A and B while keeping your federal health benefits program, your FEHB, into retirement. And now, like I said, as you probably are thinking, that is definitely the most expensive option because you're not only paying the premium still for your health benefits through the government, but also for Medicare Part B as well. So it is definitely the most expensive option, but let's talk about what it does get you. So like I said, Medicare Part B only covers 80% of many medical expenses, and you'd be flipping the bill for the last 20%. If you kept your federal health benefits program into retirement, it would act as your secondary insurance and it would flip the bill. It would pay for that last 20%, and many of your copays, your deductibles, many of those things will be paid for because you have both of those down the road, and many of your out-of-pocket costs are going to be completely wiped out. Now, are you paying a bunch of money in premiums? Yes, you are. So it's a matter of, whenever we're talking about insurance, it is always a matter of risk. It's a question of risk and how much do you want to take on as an individual. And when it comes to retirement, there's many things that we can, get loans for, whether it's school or business or things. But a retirement you can't get loans for. And so it is always a question of risk. And if someone wants to self-insure, that's always an option. But for many people, this option can be a fantastic option because they don't have to worry down the road. Now, I'm not endorsing this option as the best option. It is definitely the most conservative and the safest option, which can bring a lot of comfort to you down the road throughout your retirement. But again, you have to make that decision for you because you're the one that has to flip the bills on both those premiums. So it has to make sense for you and your financial plan. But I think it is very important to remember that healthcare costs are rising dramatically fast. And a good decision in this area when it comes to coordinating your health benefits and going into retirement, a good decision here can save you tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars down the road just by how you coordinate these things and properly accounting for the risks that you're going to be taking on by whichever decision you make. By doing the research now, by educating yourself now to go into retirement with the best knowledge that you could possibly have, it will save you so much heartache and so much money down the road. So good job for being here and educating yourself. This is just definitely, the first stop for you to really start learning about these things and to learn what makes sense for you. And again, thank you for being here. I hope this information is helpful. And if you have any questions, follow-up questions, please email me, put in the comments below, and I'll try to get to you as soon as I possibly can. And until next time, you have a great one.